Hi everyone, Dr. Jima here. So today I'm very excited to have another interview with a very close friend of mine, Dr. Acha. We're going to talk about his journey, his experience in going through medical school and becoming the physician that he is right now. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Dr. Acha,
Yes, sir.
thank you for spending the time with us today.
It's my pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I originally am from Cameroon in West Africa. I was born there and grew up there and came to the US in 2000, December 2000 to be specific. And I came to pursue education here. I always wanted to be a medical doctor from when I was young. So I went through a lot of difficulties in Cameroon, but was fortunate enough to get admitted into a university, in Texas, that I came to study. So
if I hear you right, your path to coming to the United States to pursue your dream career was through the education, where you applied to a school.
Absolutely.
And you got accepted and you came here.
Absolutely.
And for our audience, this is not unusual. A lot of the immigrants that we come into this country, we have the aspiration to really become something better than what we were before. And luckily, with the systems in place, we are given or afforded that opportunity to be able to do that and be where we are right now and provide the services that we provide for the community. Go ahead, Dr. Acha.
Yeah, so came here December 2000. I was admitted into Texas Southern University in Texas, and then when I got there, I didn't have the funds to be able to attend Texas Southern University. I was fortunate enough to work with the team there. There was a woman there that I really, when I remember her, it's very emotional. Dr. Iris Perkins was her name. She's of late now, and she helped me be able to switch over to Houston Community College so I can keep my visa for school. Otherwise I would be illegal and stuff like that. So I switched to Houston Community College, did 2 years there. I first wanted to be a nurse because I wanted to use that as a pathway to medicine, because being the only one in my family in the US and having lots of difficulties, I thought I should go that route. Then I explored it. I actually got admitted into a nursing school, but then went and realized that I didn't want to take that path. I switched back and then got admitted from Houston Community College to Baylor University. I spent a year there and then was admitted to Rice University. And I came to Rice University and admitted into medical and applied to medical school. And I didn't finish Rice. I was accepted into Texas A&M School of Medicine. I was one of a couple of other students. I was one of two students who didn't have a bachelor's degree when we started medical school. My bachelor's degree was awarded by my School of Medicine.
Okay.
They had some kind of thing that you had to have one, and then they gave it to me after I did the first year of medical school. And then, so from 2005 to 2009, I was in medical school. During that time, something that set me apart from my other medical students was that I started an orphan care organization. That is my foundation now, and so I was doing medicine, being in medical school, and I was running that, and some of my classmates were involved, and so that was something that was unique for me in terms of my medical school journey. By the time I graduated, that had grown to was serving hundreds of kids. That also started in 2005, and that would explain some of the things that would happen in my future in terms of taking time off from residency and stuff like that.
So certainly you have a very rich journey. One thing that you said that I kind of wanted you to shed a little bit light on that is your wanting to become a nurse through your pursuit of actually becoming a physician. And you did say that it was more so a way to get yourself into the medical space because you thought it would be too difficult, too hard. You're here in the United States by yourself without any family support. This is not also unusual. A lot of people in their pursuit to becoming a physician or even any other profession whatsoever. You know, a lot of immigrants, we come into the United States, we want to become an engineer, we want to become a lawyer, we want to become a physician. But then there's always something that we think we can do that will get us into that space. And sometimes we shorthand ourselves.
Absolutely.
Where we don't fully achieve our potentials. Absolutely. And there could be so many different factors, financial factors, family support. Absolutely. All those things can sometimes limit us. So absolutely. I'm glad that you gave it a shot. Yeah. You went in there and you figured out, this is not for me.
Absolutely.
And this is nothing to do with the profession of nursing. It's just your career. As a matter of fact, your wife is a nurse.
Absolutely. Nurses are fantastic. We could not do doctoring without a full team that consists of doctors and nurses and other allied health professionals. So
one question: why you were in undergraduate program? Why the motivation to want to start an orphanage?
I grew up very broke, to say it lightly, and my dad was the one who provided for our family, and he was a school teacher, a great school teacher, and he passed away when I was 9. Prior to him passing away, he had been sick, and so my mom was what they used to call back then a housewife. She didn't do anything but raise the kids and then support the dad. So when my dad passed away, the family plunged into like a lot of poverty, and we couldn't get medical care, go to school. I dropped out of grade school really in Cameroon because we couldn't afford my mom couldn't afford $10 worth of tuition to pay. So I went and stayed home and had different people come and support me. I had a situation where I was dropping out a second time, and then there was a French teacher, a Cameroonian. He taught French because Cameroon speaks French and English, but he was a Cameroonian guy who taught French, and he took me in, a stranger, a perfect stranger from a different part of Cameroon. I went and lived with him for a couple of years. That's how I even stayed in school. And then I made good grades and was able to win a scholarship to go to a high school. Okay. And so my background, growing up and being an underdog and seeing people suffering, when I was able to do something, I also became born again as a Christian in 2002. And my background and my Christian commitment, when I read the Bible, I saw the need to help poor people. So I wanted to do that. And I'm not sure if it was the best decision to do when you're starting medical school, to start a nonprofit that takes a lot of time, but that's what I did.
So, I mean, a lot of you can possibly relate. If you're in undergrad, you're in college, that whole space itself and the work that is required of you or of us to succeed is tremendous. Yeah. Let alone starting a nonprofit where you are providing orphanage services and impacting other people. I am pretty sure it was difficult.
Absolutely.
But you were motivated to want to do that, and I'm pretty sure you did help a lot of people. So you did successfully finish your undergraduate program, yes?
Absolutely, yes. So I went into Texas A&M School of Medicine, and then finished my undergraduate degree concurrent with my medical school. So my first year of medical school counted as my first year of medical school and my last year of undergraduate.
Yeah, and actually to our audience, this is also a very unique program. There are other, I think UC Riverside actually has a similar program in California, where sometimes being in the undergraduate program, there is a smooth transition into a medical program, which is what Dr. Acha pursued. But the key here is that he did not pursue this isolated, right? He pursued this doing other extracurricular things, such as running an orphanage program. And I like I said, most likely was extremely difficult to do. But he successfully completed his medical school program. Concurrently, like you said, with the orphanage program, and after that, what happened after that?
After medical school, graduating in 2009, May 2009, I did 10 months of residency in Waco, Texas, at a family medicine program there that It was my first choice. I wanted to go there. It was a very good program. And at the time, I was running this orphanage program in Cameroon that was growing. We were getting donors in the US, and I was having to be the one directing everything. We had staff on the ground. We're helping hundreds of kids every year. And so, and 90 of them, 85 of them were in an orphanage setting. Back then we had an orphanage. And I realized that even though I was able to do both things as a medical student, to be able to successfully do residency, I could not do the orphan care work at the same time as go through residency. That was a challenging situation on a different level. And so I came to a decision with my wife. We prayed and we fasted and prayed and thought about it. And I talked with my residency program, and I resigned from residency in 2010 to focus on missions work for some time.
So, this also brings up a very interesting point. We go through seasons in our lives, and it is important that we prioritize.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's just not worth it multitasking, doing a lot of things at the same time where you are not able to give your full to that particular thing.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that can get in our way.
Absolutely.
And for our audience, it's okay. It's completely fine to reevaluate, right? If you are going through difficult things,
Absolutely.
too many things hitting you at the same time. You got kids, you got job, you have other family members, you have parents that are sick, whatever situation is, and you are juggling all those things. It's okay to take a break, pause, reevaluate, and figure out what is most important at this time, and just go through that process and handle them. And at the end of it all, you can come up successful.
Absolutely.
Rather than draining yourself with lots of different activities and priorities.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Acha, here in your scenario, you basically came to the realization with your family and through prayer, of course, that you needed to take a step back.
Absolutely. And I was getting burnt out.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's what happens when you get yourself overwhelmed with so many different priorities at the same time. So you took a step back, you stepped away from residency, and basically you pursued your passion and your desire at that time of being running the orphanage, yes?
Yes, running the orphanage and doing missions work. And
Tell me a little bit about what happened in that space. How long were you gone for doing your orphanage work out of residency?
From 2010 to returning 2015, August, September.
So about 5 years, you took some time to do orphanage work. Okay. And tell me a little bit about, and share with our audience a little bit about what happened in that 5 years. How many people were you able to affect?
And my decision, I loved medicine, and I've always loved medicine my earliest memories of wanting to do anything as a profession was medicine.
Okay.
So that decision to take time off was very difficult.
Okay.
And my plans and prayer were to return. So when I actually took time off like that, when I entered my resignation letter with the residency, I went and took my step 3. Okay. Right within a month or two, knowing that I was not going to pursue medicine right there.
Okay.
But I wanted
to get it out of the way.
That when I came back, I wouldn't have to deal with it.
So for our audience, in medicine, in our pursuit to become physicians overall, in our pursuit to becoming physicians overall, there are a couple of exams we have to take, right? If you did listen to my previous video with Dr. Forrest, one of the things we talked about is exactly what Dr. Acha is talking about, right? We go through your MCAT exam, which is basically your entry exam into medical school. Then while in medical school, there are a series of exams, your step 1, step 2, hopefully you do that before you finish your medical school. And actually you do have your step 3, which is another board exam. It's another exam that we have to take while we're in residency. Yeah. So because you were coming out of residency, you did not want to fall behind in your knowledge, in your
Absolutely.
skill.
Yes.
So you made the right move there by doing
I took
that.
that and got that out of the way. And so then those 5 years, my focus was to try to get the orphan care organization to a place where it could be independent of me.
Okay.
And I thought initially that maybe 1 year I would be able to
Do
build
that.
it up.
Okay.
But it didn't. It took longer than 1 year. So, but yeah, I wanted to get it to a place where other people can run it. And we're fortunate enough that I was able to recruit some volunteers.
Okay.
And we had a program in Austin, Texas with my wife, Ellen, that we're having volunteers from different parts of the U.S. come. Some of them will live in our house with us, and we'll train them for 3 months.
Okay.
And I'll travel with them on a mission trip to Cameroon. I'll often go sometimes with 6 people, and they would serve at the orphan care
So did you have
organizations.
orphan centers in Cameroon?
We had 2 centers. We had a center, a main center in Batibo in the northwest province of Cameroon that had at the time 85 kids.
Okay.
Then we had a remote location that had, I think, about 30 kids or something like that
Okay.
that were helping at the time.
Okay.
Um,
Wow. So after the span, or within a span of 5 years, stepping away from what your passion is, which is your ultimate goal of becoming
Yes.
a physician, stepping away and spending time in doing this, what was the growth process for your orphanage within that time frame?
Within that time frame, the growth was a lot. One, the first thing we did was we built a $180,000 orphan care building.
Okay.
We had a fundraiser in Waco at the time, and we had a lot of support.
Okay.
And we did between Waco and Houston, and
Okay.
lots of meetings, and we
Okay.
raised that money to build an orphan care building that has
Okay.
served the kids for since then. And then when I started visiting Cameroon and doing a lot of research and developing training programs for people who are going into orphan care, because one of the things I saw at the time, which was a need that we met, was that a lot of people who want to go into orphan care, they don't have any places that educate them. And so the people who are wanting to volunteer to go with me to Cameroon, many of them were out of high school, they'd never done anything, and I was like, is there some program out there that some people can take to be able to to train themselves even for a few months before they go into that kind of work? I didn't see any, so we ended up starting one.
Okay.
And so
And that's your Severance.
that's become Servants University.
So Dr. Acha actually runs an online university that trains people for mission work, and also orphanage, orphan care.
Yes.
So that's a program that a university that he actually runs and awards
Degrees up to master's degrees. Yeah.
up to master's degrees. So he's doing great work there. Now, so which is very important. That actually, in my opinion, ties in very well with your pursuit to becoming the family physician.
Absolutely.
My question I have for you is, why family physician? Why not any other specialty?
When I first went into medical school, I was 100% sure I was going to be a pediatrician.
Okay.
Like I was caring for orphans. I loved kids. Everybody knew I was going to be a pediatrician. So in the last year of medical school, where we have to choose residencies and file some paperwork, I had at the time a pediatric cardiologist who really loved working with me and the way I answered questions. He was trying to groom me to go into pediatrics and become a cardiologist. And then, but I kept wanting to have a situation where when I go back to Cameroon, because at the time I also thought that it would be advantageous for me to, after training in the US, to move back to Cameroon and serve there and live there. That changed, and we could talk about that at a different time or in this conversation if you want to know. But so I started thinking that if I were to go to my village in Cameroon to care to serve there, and I said I was a pediatrician and I couldn't help the older people, my grandparents and other people, it would be quite weird. And they would want somebody who could do both. And family medicine became the thing for me that would allow me to care for adults and for kids.
That's very true. Personally, that's one of my motivations to become a family physician as well. To be basically train ourselves, educate ourselves with a whole spectrum of the population here, from. So your family physician, your primary care provider, essentially is trained to be able to take care of kids all the way up onto the geriatric population, 80, 90-year-old, which is very rewarding.
Absolutely.
Now, let me bring that in a little bit, because you returned after 5 years of away from residency, and you came back and obviously successfully completing residency. At the University of
UCR.
Riverside. Now you have been practicing for how long now?
Since 2008, I finished residency in 2018, and then.
So about 3 years.
About 3 years now.
Okay.
Yes.
So what really motivate you right now in the job that you do, your career right now?
My choice of working with the current organization that I work with was driven largely by the patient population. Many of the patients that we see, and Dr. Jima and myself work for the same organization. Many of the patients that I see at my location, low income patients. Many of them in my clinic, about 70 to 80% average of my patients speak only Spanish. Many of them, they work on either on the fields or housekeeping or hotels cleaning or landscaping. There are people who don't have much means, and so given my background growing up and being a low income person, I wanted to actually connect and be able to use my services to provide care for that population. And that's one of the things that really brings joy for me, being able to work with people that I feel like need my services, and I'm able to deliver for them.
Absolutely. And obviously your training, your education has afforded you that ability to do so. We have lots of listeners who are in college, or some are wrapping up college or going into medical school, or some are in high school and considering pursuing career medicine. What is your advice for them?
My advice for people who want to go into medicine is to make sure that they have the right motivation, and that they also expose themselves to people that do medicine if you can speak to other people that do medicine early on. That would help you be able to really see if this is something you want to do. If you watch Dr. Jima's last video, you'll see it takes a long time to go through medicine, and before you really engage yourself in a long and fulfilling journey like that, you want to make sure you're rightly motivated. This is something you want to do.
The motivation here is really being, in my opinion, from what I heard, is basically educating yourself to be in a position to really help others with that medical knowledge.
Absolutely.
And that's the same thing for me. I tell my patients all the time, my role here is to, I've trained myself, or I've been educated to gain all this knowledge to come alongside you as my patient and give you that information to help you, and we can make a good decision together. Would you say, and you've been in practice for 3 years, would you say this was worth it?
Absolutely. Every ounce of everything, I think it was worth it. I could not see myself doing anything else. I want to be a doctor till I die. I love medicine that much.
Good. That's exciting. Everybody, I love it. The answer that you actually gave, it's excellent. The journey is difficult. The journey is tough. But as we have talked about today, number one, have your own mission, have your own purpose, and be motivated from that angle. It's not a matter of what others want to see you do or the amount of money you want to make. That is not the motivation. The motivation is how and who you want to serve. So let that be your premise. Be motivated because the journey is tough. But you can overcome if you are disciplined, you are focused, regardless of what life will throw at you. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Dr. Acha, any words of advice, final words of advice?
Actually, the only thing I would add, if you don't know God and you think God exists, I would encourage you to really think about it and explore and make sure that existential part of you is addressed. And I'm also an ordained Christian pastor. If you have questions about that kind of thing and you want to know God better, you can reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer them. But make sure you answer that part and be living this life knowing that the next life is something that you have addressed.
And as a matter of fact, Dr. Acha also has a YouTube channel that he talks a lot about spiritual growth, and along with his university of educating for missionary work and also for orphanage services. And if you click on the link down below, you'll be able to visit his channel and educate yourself more in that space as well. Thank you, Dr. Acha. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. Have a good one.